everyone. All right, sorry it took us a few minutes here. My internet was telling me that I had no internet signal, and I don't know why. But anyways, we're up and running now. Lindsay will be here in a moment, and we will do our coffee chat. I have coffee in hand. I'm hiding from the freezing cold weather that we have. It snowed a bunch overnight and is super windy and cold here this morning. So the coffee is much needed. All right, Lindsay will be here. Good morning, Debbie. And then we'll add Lindsay in and we'll have our little chat. If you have any specific questions or anything that you wanted us to talk about or chat about or answer for you, anything like that, feel free to drop them in the comments. If you're watching this on replay, drop a little hashtag replay in the comments so that we know that you were here and you were watching. And yeah, we'll try to chat about all the things that we've been seeing going on here in the last week. We're going to make these weekly chats on Monday mornings.
Hello! Hello! We made it!
We did. We had some technical difficulties, but we're fine.
Well, you know, it's Monday and, you know, Facebook's always a pain in the butt, so it's all good.
My internet was very much feeling the Mondays.
Yeah, well, I'm feeling the cold and the Mondays.
Yeah, it's awful out. It's funny though, because I got up at 3:30 in the morning to take Farley out to pee. Farley is our puppy, for those of you who don't know. And it had snowed, but it wasn't like windy and cold yet. And then this morning when I took the kids to school, when we walked the kids to school, it was so cold. It's like windy and freezing. Yeah, not fun.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it doesn't sound fun.
Big difference from last week.
I'll happily sit here in my heat. No kidding. That's what I was saying to somebody. I'm like, it's cold and windy where you are. We were nice and warm in Palm Springs, but
I know.
It's crazy.
I know. That was
crazy.
Lovely.
All
right, so, what's going on this week?
Well, so this is the thing. I wanted to chat a little bit about this because I thought it was really interesting. So, guys, if you haven't gone over to our free Facebook group, which is Recipe for Weight Loss Success group, go over there now because it's a really great resource. But I put in 5 polls yesterday, which, if you don't know, is basically me asking questions about where you're at in your journey, what kind of surgery did you have if you had it, what's your biggest struggle, how far out you are. I don't know, there was a few of those. But anyways, what I found was really, really interesting because, Christina, I don't know if you had a chance to take a look at it, but do you see what the #1 struggle, the most voted #1 struggle, from macros to meal prepping to self-care to motivation to fitness? There was one other one I can't remember. What do you think the most popular struggle is at the moment?
I haven't looked, but I'm going to guess self-care if they were really being honest. But
well, so
it may
close,
not be that.
Really close. Actually, so self-care right now is #2, which I was actually really surprised at because most people, especially when they're lacking self-care, they don't think, oh, self-care is one of my issues. So I was like,
but I think
cool.
I think it's kind of trending right now. Self-care is trending, and we suck at it. So, and I mean, it's trending, and it's one of those things that it's like it's trendy, and you know if you're bad at it, and you kind of just don't talk about it a lot, but. Like 5 years ago, I don't think anybody would have even noticed that they're terrible at self-care because it wasn't really a thing. But right now, it's all over the place. Like self-care, fill your cup, do these things, take care of you first, you know, put on your own oxygen mask before assisting others, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, that it's become like a real life, everyday thing. And I think it's just becoming more obvious that we suck at it. And through this weight loss journey, I think a lot of people, it really opens their eyes to how terrible they are at self-care, myself included, that I am not a self-care master by any means. I've gotten better, but I'm not a master of that.
Yeah, and I find it really, really interesting. Well, so I'll tell you in just a second, but I want to talk about that self-care for a moment because in one of our paid membership groups, we have a monthly membership group where you know, people reach out and ask questions, whatever. And one of the questions that came up last week, which I find so interesting, was what's the line between selfishness and self-care? And you and I were both like, whoa, interesting, because if you guys don't know Christina and I very well, we talk all the time about nutrition and exercise, of course. Mindset is huge, but self-care is one of the 4 pillars that we truly believe is part of this journey. And so, as Christina said, sometimes people are like, what the heck self-care? What do you mean I have to look after myself? Even though the example that Christina just gave about putting the mask on yourself before you put it on your child has been in existence, well, since airplanes existed, so years and years and years. So it's not a new concept, but I agree. I think it's something that's really come up more and more and more. So back to selfish versus self-care, it was really interesting because a lot of people in our paid program actually piped up and was like, yeah, I've been struggling with that myself. Which, for the record, guys, if you're asking if you think you're being selfish, means you're not being selfish. That is one thing I'll tell you right away. The people who are being truly selfish with themselves, they don't care and they're not asking about it.
And they don't think that they're being selfish ever.
Exactly. And self-care is never, ever selfish. And this is an important thing I want you guys to keep in mind when you're thinking about self-care for yourself. If you go and your self-care happens to be getting your nails done, and that's something you try to do at least, I don't know, how often you get your nails done, Christina? 3, 6, 8 weeks? I don't even know. Okay.
8 weeks, 2 to 3.
Okay. I don't know if that's something that you do every 3 weeks because that's something that really, fills your cup, then that's never selfish. And I had somebody say, but what about the money that I spend on my nails versus I could be giving my child this, or I could give my spouse that. And I'm like, but it's not just about the financials. It's about the time that you spend with yourself. It's about how it makes you feel. I mean, Christina, I know you used to.
Yeah, I think that for self-care, unless you're taking away from someone else to give to yourself. So if you think like the nails, for example, if I was saying, no, Ava, I'm sorry, you can't do gymnastics because mommy needs pretty nails. Like that may be being a little selfish. However, my kids are very spoiled. So if I said, no, Ava, you can't have that new toy because there's not enough money for all of this, but you have 97,000 other toys right now, that's a different scenario. Or if I said, no, honey, I'm sorry you can't have dinner tonight because mommy needs a latte, that would be selfish. So, if you think about the whole you can't pour from an empty cup, if you think about physical cups, and that if you're taking out of someone's cup to put into yours, then, that might be getting on the selfish line. But if your cup is empty and somebody else's is running over, then yes, you can borrow from theirs to fill yours a little bit. You shouldn't ever have to take it though. They should be offering it. If they're meant to be in your life, that's kind of another thing. And if you're thinking that I'm being selfish because I'm taking from them, well, why aren't they giving to you? So, before you think about, are you being selfish? Are they being selfish? Because I spent a lot of years with somebody who was very selfish, and I frequently felt like I was being selfish because I was made to feel like I was being selfish. That if I wanted to go take a hot bath in the evening and, escape my children for a few minutes, I was made to feel like I was being selfish. Well, no, I wasn't, because I needed that time to, decompress, relax, unwind, do all of those things to make myself better and be able to give more to those people. So, I think that you really, like Lindsay said, though, if you're asking the question, you're probably not there.
Yeah. And that's the other thing to think about too. I mean, that's a great example, because I won't lie, I miss my bathtub. It's the one thing that Christina and I talk about all the time. She'll be like sending me a picture, not a picture of her, but a bathtub picture. And she's like, enjoying my self-care. And I'm just like, ugh. But it doesn't have to cost money. That's the thing with self-care too, right? I mean, in our head, we constantly think, oh, maybe nails or hair, or, go out and buy myself a new workout outfit or whatever, but it doesn't have to do that. One of the things that fills my cup a ton that I do for my self-care is my husband, Ben, and I, we go for a walk on the beach. And we usually bring our own coffees or teas because, we don't want to spend $5 on Starbucks because I'm cheap. And that doesn't fill my cup. That just makes me angry. So we bring our own drinks and we, go for a walk and we, shoot the shit and we just chat. And it could be 20 minutes or it could be 3 hours, depending. But it doesn't have to be costly, right? I mean, we always say it's either time or money, and that's the truth in everything we do. So if you just need, I mean, it's interesting. One of our members posted the other day in the group where she was sitting in her car, and that was her self-care photo. And she was just like, I'm just taking 20 minutes to sit in my car, not worry about my kids, my husband, or nothing. And she just sat there and she's like, you know, my husband doesn't understand why this is self-care, where all the members were like, oh, totally been there, done that, totally know what you're talking about. And so that's self-care for her. And so again, just because nails or hair or massage is self-care for one person, as we always say, it's all dependent on you, right? I don't love getting my nails done. I don't love people touching my feet. But so like for me, that may not be what fills my cup, but everybody has their things that they do. And what we recommend highly is create a list, right? I call it my happy list. Create a list of things that really do fill your cup. And if you get to Thursday, and in our healthy living program, we do a check-in Thursday. So you kind of gauge on, you know, what your self-care, your nutrition, your mindset is. If your self-care is a 5 or a 6 or a 3 or a 2, take a look at your list and be like, oh man, you know, I didn't have a tea sitting in front of the fireplace, not me, maybe you. I didn't do my bathtub. I didn't, and so you're looking now and you're like, oh, no wonder my self-care and I feel so bleh, because I haven't done these things on a daily or weekly basis.
It's also really important to let your loved ones know and the people that are in your life, like your support system, know what self-care looks like to you. That Dallas and I have very different ideas of self-care. He actually doesn't require a ton of self-care because he does what he wants in the moment. So he doesn't really think about it. Like, it's not really self-care. It's like, he's very good at saying no to things, I guess is the way to put it. That if he's done and he's reached his limit and I say, hey, would you mind vacuuming? He says, no, I'd rather not today. I'll get to it tomorrow. Like, so he's just very good at setting his limits. So he doesn't tend to get that overwhelmed. I find men tend to be better at that than women are. Women, we tend to keep giving and giving and giving and giving till we reach that breaking point, and then all hell breaks loose and we snap and we lose our shit on everybody. So before you get to that point, so yesterday morning, I was definitely feeling that between the kids and the vacation and coming home and trying to get everything ready for this week, and then the puppy and then getting back to work. I was like, oh my goodness, I was just losing my mind. And I said to him yesterday morning, I need to make a coffee and go sit in a quiet room and drink it while it's hot. That's just what I need to do right now. That I need that time to just sit quietly with my coffee. And he was like, okay, and like looked at me like I was strange. But then when I came back from like 30 minutes of drinking a coffee, well, it was hot, and I was just so much more calm and relaxed. And I was like, there, now I'm good. Now I can handle the day. I can handle the chaos. And then I made sure in the afternoon to pay it forward and give it back to him. I took the kids. We tired the dog out, took the dog for a walk and stuff. And then he was sleeping, and I took the kids and went out for like 45 minutes, half an hour, whatever it was, to run some errands and took them with me. So he got some time to just decompress on his own too. So I find that when I am like relaxed and stuff, I'm better able to give that back. I'm not.
Yeah, and that's really where it comes. Sorry, Christine, what?
Oh, I'm not getting comments here, and I don't know if there's nobody commenting or if they're just not popping up. So I'm just going to go on my computer here at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So
I was going to say, Facebook's not like that. Yeah, so I think it's really important to remember that, like, the whole idea of you can't pour from an empty cup, right? Because when your cup is empty, there is nobody benefiting. And I mean, I always say, like, when my cup is empty, I've got zero patience for my kids. I cannot focus on the people that I work with every day, my clients, our groups, that type of stuff. You know, obviously I'm short-tempered because I'm either tired or whatever. So nobody benefits, and including myself. So when you start pouring things back into that cup, that's when everybody starts benefiting again, right? That's when I have, you know, that sit down and conversation patience with my 11-year-old. That's when, you know, we sit down and we have, you know, talks or conversations or fun or whatever. But I love what you were saying about your support system, because that's huge, right? There are times when, I mean, especially if you're an obliger, and I'll come back to that because I know from my experience, you know, when you're an obliger, you're constantly putting everybody else first. That's just how it is. And so for me, I know where I have to put things in order to make sure that I get some of that cup filling myself. Ben is an obliger, but he has rebellion tendencies. And so what ends up happening is I will say to him, you are going for a run. Here are your running shoes, and get out. And it's partly because I love him, of course, but the other part is that need to take that time for him, where he's like, well, the kids need to do this, or you need to do that. And I'm like, yes, all of that is still okay, but you need to go out and to get your run in and stop putting it off for us. And so having that support system to be able to say, like, Okay, hold on a second, Christina. I think you need a break today. So I'm not going to message you anymore. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. You know, throw your phone out the window. Obviously not, but stop doing it. And that support system is really there exactly that, to support you. So if you find there's people around you that are actually doing the opposite, like pulling all of your stuff out of your cup all the time and never actually telling you to fill it back up again, that's when you really want to evaluate your support system. And we truly believe that that support, that community that, you know, within our groups that we have, as well as encouraging those around you to do, is such an important part, because if you get drained from people around you, there's no way to fill that cup again. It's impossible.
Well,
so it's really, really
it's
hard to kind of do that.
It's interesting, in the bariatric community, people talk about divorce frequently. And I feel like this is a big reason why it happens. As somebody who's gone through the post-bariatric divorce, I think a lot of it is that I used to let somebody empty my cup all the time. And I took no time for self-care, and I just took care of somebody all the time and put myself last. That was part of how I piled on weight and piled on weight and piled on weight, because I just never made myself a priority. My workouts didn't matter. My nutrition didn't matter. I would decide that I was going to eat super clean, do really well, whatever, and then somebody else would decide that we were going to order pizza. Well, guess what? We ordered pizza. So I just never made myself a priority. And then after surgery, I started to make myself a priority, and he didn't align with my priorities anymore. I'm not even going to say that he changed. He probably didn't. He's probably the same person he's always been. And it was me that just said, I'm not going to put up with that anymore. It's not okay that you're doing this. And, you know, I support you unconditionally, and I feel like you need to support me back. So I think that's a lot of what happens after surgery, with marriages falling apart, with friendships falling apart. I've seen that a lot too. It doesn't just have to be marriages. Family stuff can get really tight, really difficult in there, but because, yeah, you've decided that you're going to make yourself a priority. I also notice the people in the bariatric community that are the most successful are the ones who are willing to make themselves a priority and not use the excuse of everyone else. And let's be honest, it's an excuse. The world will go on without you. I used to think there was no way my husband could survive a day without me. Well, now he's my ex-husband, and he's still alive 3 years later.
Damn it.
He's still there. Some days,
unfortunately,
not to my liking, but he is. So yeah, it's very much like people will survive without you, even though you think you're the glue holding everything together. You're not always. So, and sometimes, you know, you're taking away so much from yourself that then you're not the person that you used to be before either. So that self-care piece is really, really important. And obviously you guys are starting to see that, and opening that up if Lindsay's poll put that as number 2. But Lindsay still has to tell us what number 1 is. But hold on, because Gretchen just made a comment. It's hard to read on this. Well, I'm going to go to computer. She said she made her mom go take a nap and take time for herself because she's taking care of me and left to go back home today because her sister's being admitted to the hospital tomorrow. Oh my goodness. So she has to recharge or have some self-care. I struggle with it for myself, but my inner circle forces me to focus on self-care. Gretchen, you have an awesome inner circle that I just follow. Like, I follow her on Facebook all the time. She's one of our members, and her inner circle is really, really wonderful, that it seems like you're constantly getting your cup filled and giving back to others too. So I love when people can find those really good pieces, and I love that you forced your mom to self-care too. Moms are crap at self-care. My mom isn't great at it, and then as a mom, I'm not great at it, but I'm trying. And I'm hoping that when Ava becomes a mom someday, if she chooses to, that she will be better at it, because currently Ava's really good at self-care. Really like
I love it.
Self-care when you're 7.
I love it. Yes,
All
it's
right.
very, very self-centered. Self-centered world in 7. All right. So, of the others, which I thought was really interesting, because it was one of those things where I kind of put the different things in there, thinking, okay, I am pretty certain macros or meal prepping was going to be up there, because we hear that a lot, right? I'm struggling. But number 1, motivation.
You know what though? I think we hear about macros and meal prep and fitness. Like, we hear about those things all the time because those are action steps that people feel like they can take. That it's like, oh, I'm crap at macros. Here, let me get better at macros. Oh, I'm crap at meal prep. Let me get better at meal prep. Because people know how to do something about that. Even if it's hard for them or they're not experts at it, it's something you can physically do. It makes you feel like you have control. Motivation and self-care are both 2 pieces that people feel like either you have it or you don't, and that they feel like they can't learn it, they can't like find it. So that's super interesting.
Yeah, and what I find really, really interesting, because I mean, like our groups, like oh God, 1,000 other, whether it's a running group or, you know, a homeschooling group or whatever it may be, we give you tools to get some work done, right? We say, okay, these are some of the things to do, but it goes like with anything else. I mean, you can go online and pretty much find everything and anything that you can do. Here's how to execute X, Y, and Z. But just because you have a list on how to execute it, unless you're an upholder, Christina, most people look at that list and are just like, and? So what? How do I? What does that mean? And so it's interesting when it comes back to that motivation where it's like, you know what, that's the one piece that unfortunately I would love to be able to, we cannot give you, right? We can be supportive. We can ask you to check in every day, post your healthy selfies, you know, get you to come to classes with us, you know, sit down one-on-one nutritional coaching with Christina or one-on-one personal training with me. We have systems in place to help that, but it comes down to what we always talk about is that if you can't make that step to get into the motivation circle or the motivation of, you know, accountability or whatever, then there's not much else we can do or we can help with. So I find that really interesting.
It's interesting in the bariatric community because I feel like everybody has had that motivation at one point or another. At this point in mine and Lindsay's career, in our business, in our support system, whatever part you're in, most of the people that we work with are further out from surgery. It tends to be, I mean, we love you newbies that are fresh and new and following the rules and doing all the things. And, you know, you're worried about drinking from a straw and you're, you know, all of those things. We love you and we love the fresh excitement. But the people that we tend to work with most are the ones that are several years out from surgery and that they're out of that honeymoon phase, that they've moved past that and they're struggling either with some regain or they never got to their goal, or some of them are struggling with maintenance and what that looks like. So that tends to be who we work a lot with. And that one is the tough one in terms of motivation because you had it at one point. I really think that every single person, I mean, to get through that freaking pre-op diet, you guys had to have had some motivation. Like there's something that drives you through that. But it changes over time. My initial motivation, when I had my surgery and I was so strict and I was so, you know, on point and I followed all the rules and I did all the things, my motivation is very different now than what it was then. So I have had to dig a couple times, dig down deep and find what is motivating me. Recently, I've had to kind of reassess again what I want to do. And my motivation now is much more health focused in terms of what I'm eating, because my tummy is not agreeing with a lot of foods lately. So I had to, again, just dig down deep and think about what do I want to do, that, you know, I can't just follow this blindly. I have to really think about what's motivating me, and health is my big motivator right now. That, yes, I mean, you know, of course, I like to look good, that's something, although not right now, but sometimes I do. That's something that I care about, is the vanity portion of it, but also it's huge health for me right now. And then another thing, my kids have really started to, and I know Lindsay has talked about the ages with little girls and that 9 is when their confidence starts to go downhill. Well, Ava is a very confident 7-year-old right now, but she has already started to use the F word, being fat. Talking about it, not calling herself that, but asking about, you know, what is fat and how do people get fat and like things. And it's just a big trigger for me to see my daughter asking these questions. And so again, modeling health is something that's really, really important to me. And so that has become my new motivator. Whereas initially my motivator was very different. But finding that on a regular basis. And Debbie, I think Debbie just said she has yet to find something. They say to find something to motivate you, but she hasn't found it yet. I think it's a matter of just keeping looking. And if you can't find what's motivating you to move forward, what was it about having surgery that you want? Like, why did you want surgery in the first place? What were the things? If in a perfect world, if you could just wake up and have those things be the reality for you, what did you want? Why did you, I mean, when you had surgery, for those of you who have, when you had surgery, you underwent a huge risk. That any sort of surgery, I mean, bariatric surgery is a minimal risk, but it is a huge risk still. You're undergoing surgery. There's a risk of complications. There's a risk of death. There's all kinds of risks. I'm sorry for those of you who haven't had surgery, but if you don't know there's a risk, well, you might want to research that. But I mean, it's the same as having like a knee surgery or any surgery. There's always a risk. So you were willing to risk all of that to have this surgery. What did you want to change? And then we start working backwards from there. And she says that, our programs don't necessarily help you with your motivation, but they do. Because Lindsay's really good at digging deeper into your why. So you'll say, well, I wanted to be healthy. And then Lindsay will ask you 79 more questions about what health means to you. And really, really trigger that, because the more specific you can get, the bigger that why is going to be and the more powerful it's going to be. If you just say, I want to be healthy, it's not enough. Because I want to be healthy. Well, yeah, I want to be healthy, but I also want to drink that latte covered in whipped cream right now because that's delicious. So that's not strong enough to keep you away from those things. But when you really pinpoint what healthy looks like to you, it will be strong enough. And until it's that strong, you're not there. Like, it needs to be like where you feel it in your soul and you get goosebumps when you think about it, and it needs to be big.
Yeah, and I love that, because I think that's exactly it. I mean, I use the term "so what" a lot, and it's like, well, I want to be healthy. So what? What does that mean? Why? I want to be healthy for my kids. Why? Well, I want my daughter to not feel like she should be fat. Well, why? And it's that constant figuring it out and getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And in Debbie's case, I know a little bit about Debbie's story. There are some big, strong whys in there that she just needs to find and work with. And they're always going to be changing. And this is what I always say. I hear people say all the time, when I get there. And we've talked about this a lot, because when you stepped on the scale and hit your there, it didn't fill you with happiness. It actually was the opposite. It was like, wait a second, why am I not happy? Right? So getting there, and I use quotations because there means so many different things on so many different ways. You have surgery, hit a goal weight, maybe plastics comes next. What happens after that? I've had a client that, worked her ass off to get her plastic surgery. Once she had her plastics and she was ready to kind of get back in after her recovery, she was lost, because she was like, well, now what? And that's it. So it's like, why, so what? Why, so what? Why, so what? And keep going at it. And that's the big thing that we really do try to focus on. As I said, when it comes to the actual, like, light a fire under your butt to get you moving motivation, we have that, because we have the accountability of classes, one-on-one nutrition, one-on-one personal training. We have that available. But once you are either in it or no longer in it, or haven't taken the step to get in it yet, there is steps and stages you have to get to. I think last month I posted a photo of, when are you going to get off the wall? And it's a guy sitting on a wall, and the comment was, well, I don't know, I haven't decided yet, right? And that's we live in that world where it's just kind of like, should I, shouldn't I, will I, won't I don't know. And it's really, really hard, because when you lack the motivation, sitting on that wall is the best way to be, because then you're like, well, I don't know which way to go. I don't know if I should jump or move or fall backwards.
We live in such a non-committal society, where everything is like, well, I don't really know. And there's always a comeback from it. Like, well, I think this is what I want to do, but if not, then I'll just do this instead. Like, I'll just take that back, that I don't actually have to commit to this. And I think that that's a lot of why people can't pinpoint their why, is because, it's scary, for one, to admit the things that you're wanting to tackle, because what if you fail? So I know, again, working with a lot of our clients, that they're really scared to dig down deep and figure out why they really want to have this surgery. Well, why do you want to have this surgery? What does it mean? Well, but if I say that, then what if I fail? Well, but what if you never say it and you never even give yourself the chance to be successful? What if you can't dig down deep enough? So coming from the addictions background that I come from, it's the same as, why do you want to quit drinking? Why do you want to quit drugs? Why do you want to quit smoking? If you cannot pinpoint why you want to do these things, you'll never succeed. And that's a big, bold statement. But if you don't have a strong enough reason to drive you forward, you'll never do it. It's why, intervention typically doesn't work, because if somebody else wants you to quit something, good luck. It's probably not going to happen unless you want to. And they say, like, with addicts, a lot of the time they have to hit rock bottom in order to make a change. And it's very similar with us in our journey. So I will see a lot of people that they get to their goal the same as I did, or maybe they don't get to their goal. But then once they have some regain happen, that tends to refocus them. A lot of our really, really committed members that are very committed to their health and their wellness and their fitness and their balancing their macros and doing all those things are the ones that have bounced back up And now they're like, whoa, I was given this second chance at health and wellness and I blew it. And now I'm ready to be successful. It has to be that, you're ready. If you're doing this for somebody else, if you had surgery because somebody else thought this was a good idea for you may as well quit unless you can find your reason. You need to do this for you and you only. And if you can't find out why you're doing this, if it doesn't matter enough to you, if you're okay to just keep living in the obesity world, if you're okay to have your joints breaking down and all of those kind of things and all of the things that obesity and that unwellness bring to you, then that's okay. And that's your choice. That, I mean, I'm not about shaming anybody for that if that's how you want to live. But if you're unhappy and you want to change, then you need to find out why you want to change, and you need to keep digging, digging, digging. And I mean, get together with a partner, get together with a friend, message Lindsay or I, and let's talk about that why. Hold on. There we go. Let's talk about that why and get somebody to ask you question after question after question until you really figure out what that looks like. And it's going to be a little tough. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be an uncomfortable conversation. You're probably going to get mad because when Lindsay tells you that, wanting to get on the ground to play with your grandkids isn't enough, you're going to be like, that is enough, Lindsay. You don't know what I'm talking like, but it's not. You need to keep going deeper than that, it needs to be more than that.
Yeah, and I think too, and again, if you're not in our group, go and check it out because we are reading a book right now that will really help with this process because you've heard me say it, I'm an obliger, Christina's an upholder, there's a rebel, there's a questioner, there's different personalities that there's going to be different ways to really get to that why and really get to the successes of your own journey. And as we always say, it comes back to that. I mean, there's nothing I can do, Christina can do to make you do it. It has to come from you. And that's the hard stuff, right? I always say, balancing your macros, no kidding. I still struggle with that stuff. I hate it. But the mindset, the motivation, the self-care, the things we're talking about today, that is the hard stuff because you got to get truthful. You got to look yourself in the mirror and you got to really ask yourself the hard questions. And nobody really loves that part, but I promise you, that's the part that's going to help you move along your journey, whichever direction you want to go.
Totally. And those are the pieces that you may require some support in. Again, we see a lot in our community. The people that have got to goal and successfully maintained are the ones that do that self-work as they're going. So maybe it's getting into counseling, maybe it's joining support groups, maybe it's, finding some partners to pair up with and some friendships along the way in the bariatric community. We see a lot of that happen. Maybe it's doing some life coaching. I know Lindsay and I both do life coaching, counseling as part of nutrition coaching and part of personal training. It's not just, neither one of us believe in just nutrition counseling or just personal training. We both involve the mindset into all of it, that it definitely needs to be the fully encompassed journey. It's why we focus on these 4 pillars of wellness that, again, today's been a lot about self-care, but also mindset, nutrition, and fitness. They all need to be together in order for you to have that long-term sustainable success. There is nothing more heartbreaking for me than seeing somebody hit their goal and then following up with them 6 months later, a year later, and they've had like a significant regain. It seriously like crushes me when I see it because I just feel the pain that comes with that. When you feel like you've arrived in terms of success and then to slide down that hill again, that's painful. So if you're in that spot, don't feel like you failed at all. That if you're still here, you're still listening, you're still following along, you just need to find your new why. You had a why initially that got you there, and then your why probably changed. We see it so much in maintenance. That your why almost always changes. I don't know, there's probably stats somewhere on how frequently that changes for people. But I know for me, my why has probably changed 4 times in my journey. And it will change again and again, but it'll just keep happening. So
yep. Definitely. And I mean, life happens too, right? Like life is a part of that too. Like we have somebody who hit maintenance, was doing amazing, and then boom, she got pregnant. And it's like, whoa, okay, this is amazing. I'm excited. But now what? And so now not only are you dealing with, okay, yeah, she's amazing.
She's like the hottest mom on earth though.
The hottest. She's amazing. But like, she's like, okay, now I have weight loss and now I have a new baby. And anybody who doesn't have a new baby or a new puppy knows that life changes. right? That's just how it is. So understanding your why, understanding the way your life is set up. And this is what I always say, like, this is a lifestyle change for you, which means life is going to throw shit at you all the time. It's going to be health. It's going to be family. It's going to be, you know, what's going on with my roof. It's leaking. Like, there's going to be stuff happening. My car broke down. Stuff is going to be there that's going to be stressful. It's going to lack sleep. There's going to be all of those things. Do we have a puppy? Can I see a puppy? Where?
Oh.
Oh my goodness, Farley, look at you. He's like, oh my God, what's happening?
He's like, I'm famous.
Oh my word. Anyways, yeah, I was gonna say, Farley's like our alarm clock. He's like, you guys have been talking too long. I need to go out.
Yeah, I need to pee now. So, all right.
I love it.
So we will wrap up. But feel free to message either one of, oh, sorry, let's move him. Feel free to message either one of us if you need to get more clear on that why. Check out our healthy living program. It is something that we do work on in there. Frequently is talking, again, we do the check-ins. We talk about the 4 pillars on a regular basis, and we really try to make sure that we hit on all of them every single month. And for $20, there's no better value. It does.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, enjoy the rest of your week all, and we'll be back next Monday, same time, same place, doing another coffee chat with Christina and Lindsay, because that sounds cool, on whatever might be coming up at that time, or if you guys have any questions, let us know, and we will talk about them. Have a good one. Bye, Farley.
All right.
Bye.
All right.